talk about digital fabrication with hands-on experience and not so many examples. So there are two kinds of manufacturing, additive and subtractive. So on the first one, you start with nothing and you pour material. So this one was made like this. It started from nothing, and then we poured some powder, and the laser hardened the powder, and it's adding by sedimentation, layer by layer, in order to produce a solid object. And on the other one, you put a block of matter and you carve it. Sorry, so that's this direction. And we are talking about digital fabrication, and as you will see, I'm sliding into it the analog one, all the typical and the other way of manufacturing, because digital fabrication is not yet good enough to do everything and to have all the answers and to have the good finish or the good price on everything. And you need to combine, and this is why it's interesting. We are just in that in-between moment. I don't think anyway digital fabrication would replace analog fabrication. It's just that together they start to be interwoven into an interesting structure. So we have a 3D printer. We use it for basic stuff. For example, this is a gear from my bike that got ruined, and I 3D modeled it again. After 3D scanning, I 3D modeled it over, and I printed it again from polystyrene, which I brought to the foundry. They've put it into plaster. They put that plaster in a furnace. The polystyrene burned away, leaving a cavity. And inside of the cavity, they poured molten metal, and they broke the plaster, and I got my gear, which is now on my bike and functioning. That's why digital fabrication doesn't do everything. It did just this first step of creating what we call the digital wax, because the jeweler guys are sculpting wax and doing the same process of investment casting, and we are doing it here. But somehow we don't only reproduce objects, we do also weird new objects. So using the same techniques, this one is silver, but this is brass, including all the mechanism inside. We creating a kind of a sea urchin that you open, and you've got a mechanism that makes this mirror slide in the middle, and that all the two shells aside, in order to create an object for 2 years ago for the exhibition of House of Today designs. So completely weird object. I mean, you can see it's digital fabrication because you can see the tessellations of triangle which come from the 3D file if you look carefully. So it reaches from practical to poetic, and somehow yes, there's a big potential which is open to whomever hands-on those techniques. An example I like very much is the empowerment and what has been changing in the game thanks to 3D printing. So I had this idea to create a construction game from wood pencils. This is regular hexagonal wood pencil that everybody knows. I thought we could create some small joints, a big library of joints, like we created 120 of them. Some are gears, some are various kind of joints that could be mobile, and some are fixed joints. And so I designed them all in order to create a construction game whereby you could build anything from your pencils on your table. Before 3D printing, if I had this idea, I should first try to do whatever kind of model and illustration, etc., in order to convince someone to invest into my company in order to be able to manufacture this. Because typically this was done in plastic with a mold, and it's an expensive metal mold into which the hot plastic is injected, and every single joint would need a mold. And it's a complete catastrophe because the typical price of a mold is like $5,000. So I would need to prove to someone that if he invests like $1 million in my company, I would be able to sell 1 million of those, and it would have taken, like, this would be the regular way of doing it, which would have like taken probably 3 years in order to go up, if I'm very lucky. But this was done a month and a half before Christmas. I had the idea. I did the first prototype, the second prototype. I produced a batch of 100 boxes, and we sold them all on that Christmas. It was all done quickly with a very little investment, because the price of 3D printing in this material, which is a very resistant one, a bit like my glasses, is 25 cents per cubic centimeter. And so we sold them all, and we proved our concept, and we tried to present it to Veritech, and there we failed. But that's another story. But it was interesting. The same way, this empowerment, we got also in a very short range. We are an architecture office, so we are used to very short timeline in order to make project. 2 weeks before Dubai Design Week, we got invited and they gave us the entrance wall of the show, which is like 10 meters long by 3 meters high. And they asked us to do something with that wall. So we said, okay, we will do a drawing arm and it will draw for the 5 days of the show. So people will come again to see the drawing progressing and the machine will draw non-stop. That's why we called it the obsessive drafter. And we were able to successfully build, create, engineer, and manufacture this object because all those black parts are made from 3D printing. And then we put an Arduino board inside, we put some distance motion capture and a camera, and we pushed it a bit further because even if the time was short, it was not challenging enough. We put it further, so we made it autonomous. And this is here on another show, so the picture is super blurry. The machine now is autonomous. It's picking up in the crowd people he likes, and he draws their portraits on his own, autonomously. He did that. This is the result of 10 days in France at the Biennale of Design of Saint-Etienne, who gave us another wall. And the robot did about 25 portraits during the 30 days of the show that he picked up on his own. We didn't do anything. We just let him run. So we work a bit on the 3D printing thing, and we have a limitation a bit. 25 cents per cubic centimeter doesn't seem much, but if you want to 3D print a chair, it will probably cost you like $5,000 for a chair. So you reach a kind of a limitation for those high precision industrial 3D printer because you have many kinds of 3D printer. So we decided to go for our own 3D printer, and this is the first prototype of VicVoxel. It's a very regular filament 3D printer, the same as you've seen everywhere, and probably in your classroom or whatever. It's just that this one is intended to print big with a relatively low precision. This is very zoomed, but still, you can see this is the first chair. And we developed a second prototype. This is a rendering of it. And this is what we were intending to 3D print with it. It's still a rendering as well. And this is the actual prototype in its state. It's not completely finished, but it's progressing. It's printing already. We have some problems because we took one more challenge, which is to use only plastic from the trash of Beirut. So we are using interior of fridges, which have been discarded, and the frames of the computer screen or TV screens, which is ABS, and it's a very painful material to 3D print, especially in big. So for the moment, we're in big trouble, but we're continuing to work on it. So you see about the size of it to print. The point would be to do furnitures out of recycled material. This is some tests, some small tests, some bigger tests. We have several designs that we are pushing in order to get there. We are not yet there, but we're crawling. It's a bit difficult to finance this kind of research, but we're crawling towards up, hopefully. Eventually, we'll reach them. We'll try to attack the angle of the chair thing because chair is a big obsession with me, so I confess guilty on that. But so the other way was to do it using using our 3D printer. Was to do it with our 3D printer and using sand casting, which is something which is relatively inexpensive, and it's a good source of recycled material. This one is entirely made from cooking pans. Because since 20 years, cooking pans in aluminum are forbidden in Switzerland, for example, because with salt and heat, they will give you Alzheimer in like 20 years. It's not completely obvious, but the information after 20 years, it's legal in Switzerland, have reached Lebanon, and people start to discard their cooking pans, and we collect them and we remelt them in the shape of chairs, for example, eventually. So that's why we managed to have something which is completely made in Lebanon. This is the ender of the chair. It's made from aluminum, so it could be recycled. It's made from recycled, and it can be recycled. Okay, that's the difference between those two logos. This one made from recycled, and this one recycled. And this is the chair with once it's sanded and polished, and with a car painting finish. It's called the Hans chair. Because at some point I got a bit tired of looking at design in Lebanon, and it's what we call Platonician shapes, which means very simple shape like rectangle cylinders with 90-degree assembly, etc. And not so much of continuous surfaces. And I wanted to prove that it's possible to do it. I mean, it's not so hard. We can reach that. So of course it needs to, it's digital fabrication. Who's ringing? It's not me. So it's possible to reach digital fabrication. We use it, but you need to still know some stuff from the older technique. You need to know how to do an assembly. You need to do how to do a joint, how to do a shoulder, in order to cater for the problems of casting. Sand casting is very imprecise, so you need to have a good management of the jointing in your detail in order to get a full assembly which is structurally sound and that's the job. So the good thing about digital fabrication is that as the information in 3D comes from the computer, you can use the computer to help you to make it. So it means you can use equations, and this design, for example, is entirely based on an equation. So it's what we call parametric design, which means you're going to define some parameters, and then you're going to define a function. You're going to create a function into the program that will create the object. So, oops, that's the problem. This file is not supposed to be there, so I'm going to switch. So we 3D printed from that equation the solid object, and we made a mold. That's for another object, but you can see the same one here. And we create, this is the mold. See here, it's open. And we cast inside of it ceramic. And here the ceramic, this is the greenware, so the raw and still humid wet stage. And then here it's glazed. It's going to be fired in those kilns. This is the lamps when it's finished with the light inside, and we can put very special kind of light inside of it. It's a metal halide, very high power, because this is ceramic that has been fired at 1,200 degrees. And we do ourselves in the workshop also the mix of material in order to create the glaze, which go into fusion and makes this chemical reaction that provide you with this near to glass kind of system. So I go back in the mess, sorry. Still on the furniture thing and using recycled material, so reclaimed wood and recycled aluminum. This time it's from Russian motors that come from Syria, that have been melted. We created a line of public furnitures for outdoors. So you see the sand casting. This part is 3D printed. That's what we call the master. This is the one that's going to leave a mark into the sand, and when we remove it, there will be a cavity, and into that sand, we're going to cast the aluminum. We designed a series of 6 kind of elements, and you see 1, 2, 3, and there's a 4th one here. And those 6 elements combined together can create benches, lounges, and tables. So there's a kind of a limitation of how many elements you need. So if a municipality buys some of those and one breaks, you can still use the leg of another one in order to replace and to do that. So that's the one which was messy. They have been exhibited at Sursock Museum for a while. The important thing is that they resist the pressure of the street, and they're very solid, and they're made for outdoor, and so both the wood and the aluminum are resistant to it. And they provide something. We wanted to provide a tool for municipalities in order to make public space better. Another type of furniture which is using digital fabrication. The joints here are 3D printed. So same, we 3D print in a kind of a digital wax material, and we take it to the foundry. And this one also is parametric. So you just define a linear diagram in space. So if it's a cube, you're just going to create those edges, the 12 edges that you need. And then the program will automatically populate all the joints in 3D and send them to the 3D printer. So once you solved and you created the program in order to create those joints automatically, if you've understood your design and you know very well what you need, you can program the computer to answer to every case you get. You see, for example, here you have a connection of 4, if you got a connection of 3, here you have a connection of 11, and every time the software will create the joint that will be sent to the manufacturing. So with this equation, with this parameter, you can do anything. So it could be a table with the same system. It could be a lamp using the same system. Apart from this one, which you can move on this part in order to make it lower or higher. This is also completely made from plant and 3D printed, as well as those black elements. The rest, it's a metal which has been 3D printed, and the tube are regular ones. The point of this is that you see this is two large armchairs, and I'm holding them both. You can do something that's really very efficient in terms of structure, because all the lines of force are within those tubes, and they just work on compression or in tension. So you have a very optimal system to do that. The latest acquisition of the workshop is a robot arm. I don't know if it's easy to see the scale, but I'm told like this next to it. And this plus this is equal 10 tons. It comes from the research office of Audi, the car makers, and they were used to make, as Eli was showing, clay model of cars before. The table, for example, from here to there is 2.50 meters, so it can hold, just the plate itself is 3.5 tons. It can hold 5 tons of material. And this spindle here has a tip that can carve. You see, for example, here, we're carving a Mickey out of polystyrene for a pleasure park, I don't know, something like an attraction park somewhere in Beirut. We started to use it in order to do chair making, carpentry. So we worked on to create a set of digital joints in wood. And so in the first movement, we carve the end of all the blocks, all the joints. Then we assemble them, creating a blank, which is a kind of a squarish chair. And then we fix the chair on the table, and the robot will carve it in order to give us the final result. So you see the chair is very light, it's 2.3 kilos, like this, and it can hold 2 persons. Because it has very wise joints, which are informed by all the past of chair making tradition and all this carpentry knowledge, which we are passing into digital fabrication. And that's why I'm saying we are at this moment where we need both, and we will create something a bit, it's just a new set of tools. It's not good to do everything, as everybody claims that 3D printing will replace everything. It's not, but it will certainly have some good help in some areas. And this is what we are doing by experimenting through a lot of projects, try to find out where this would be the best place to be used. That's it.